Hello. As you're drawing today, I'd like for you to have your reference of Alayne Cassatt. Now this is a detail. We didn't do the whole picture, as you can see in the background. But also included in your kit or available as a PDF on the website with the supply list is this simple line drawing that has the grid in place. I think if you have both of these things next to you as we're drawing, this will make it easier. So you can see where I've lined the picture up onto the grid, and this will help with the lines. All right, let's get started. Before we start drawing, I want you to notice some things that I've done here today. So this is an 8 by 10 piece of paper, and it measures 8 by 10 all the way out to these corners because I have tape on mine. And so I didn't start measuring only on the white part. I measured all the way from the corner. And when I did this, I measured it in half like we have been doing. So this is at 4 inches on the 8-inch side. And I measured it half on the 10-inch side. So here's 5 inches on the 10-inch side. So what you'll notice is that this rectangle is going to be larger on the white area than this one, or especially this one, because the tape has taken up part of that rectangle. And here the tape has taken up part of that rectangle on 2 sides. I did it this way because some of you enjoy drawing all the way to the edge. You don't really like taping it down. You know, I love taping it down, and it provides for me a margin where there won't be an image that just makes it nicer for me for framing and for looking at the picture later. So normally we chop it in half. This time, once we've chopped it in half, we are going to chop it in half again because we're going to do a human, and we just can't help ourselves. We get a little bit of anxiety when we see a human. We'll draw anything else with low amounts of anxiety, but when we see a human, it just goes right up there. So by graphing it again, we will make it a bit easier. I did not go for a tiny graph top. These measurements are at the 2-inch mark, so 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. And on the side, we are at the 2.5 inch. So 2.5 inches, 5, 7.5 inches, 10, in order to get these rectangles. If you're a person that enjoys drawing a picture larger than 8 by 10, I recommend that you take the 8 by 10 and multiply it by the same number so that your proportions are accurate. So for instance, 8 by 10 times 2 would be a 16 by 20 size. That way you can keep your rectangles proportional to these, and you won't have as much difficulty drawing it in the larger size. Of course, you can do more complicated math in that, but that is just the easy way of explaining it to you so that this chubby baby doesn't get all stretched out. All right, now that we've gone through that preliminary stuff, we can get started on the drawing part. To make the drawing easier for us, I have lined up this little girl where her shovel is going to meet the midline here. Also, notice that it meets the midline and it's going to stop just above the midline next to my margin. So I've got my tape almost halfway on, halfway off. So that's where this line of the shovel will be on our picture, okay? The other thing I'm going to do is I have calculated the proportions, and this little shoe, by the way, this child has very small feet compared to the chubbiness of her cheeks and hands, but I'm going to make sure that this little foot here is really down here by my margins at the bottom in this square here. So those are some of our starting points for where we're going. Also, I've eliminated the second child, even though the second child is probably easier because you don't have to look at the face features, and you just have a hat there. So in our last meetup, someone drew extra squirrels, and so if you want to do extra children at the beach, you are welcome to do that. All right, next, the top of the child's head is going to be about here on our picture, and it's going to extend to the right. So we're going to have the top of our child's head there. So these are all ways to orient her in the space. Also, this forearm right here is going to be at the middle of our picture, kind of about here, and it's going to be just inside our helping line there. By the way, when you're drawing the grid on, please press gently, even more gently than I have when you're sketching on your grid. I have to draw my grid dark enough that it will show up in the camera and you can all see it. So it is yet to be seen whether there will still be a grid on mine when I'm done from pressing so hard. But you do not have to press this hard when you put your grid on. So definitely draw gently as you are adding your grid. Let's find more anchoring points for this drawing. So the little white dress that we have here, the white part of the dress, is going to be at this line here. So I'm going to put that little line there for where that white part of the dress is going to be, which means that this dark part of the dress is going to come down at an angle, and it looks like it's going to kind of go up and make a little triangle there at that corner. So this, there we've got some little triangles there. So that'll be the bottom of this dress. All right, and then let's put the bucket in, because the bucket looks pretty easy. So it's going to be over here in this last square and kind of coming up just above where the foot will go. So notice I'm finding anchoring points around so that our proportions will be correct when we add the child in. It looks like her forehead will probably be like about here. Well, here's our forehead, and then I'm going to make her hair a little bit more noticeable as hair. So Mary Cassatt is an impressionist painter of mother and children. So you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, there's tons of details here. But if you look more closely, everything is kind of blurred. So this is a really interesting choice to do with a pen and ink. So we're going to have to add more detail than Mary Cassatt included in her little picture in order to get this whole pen and ink effect. We're up for the challenge though. I'm up for the challenge, you're up for the challenge. It should be fun. But that means we're going to have to use knowledge that we have of hair and faces and dresses and buckets and sand and stuff like that to add more details than Mary Cassatt actually included in her picture. So one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm going to have a bit more hair. All right, so back here on the back of the child's head, for instance, let's go to this square and kind of go about in the middle. I'm going to accentuate kind of a little flip on the back of her head. And so then this will be her hair coming up to her top of her head there. So we'll do more hair things there. And then we can go ahead and connect to the top, from the top of her head, come down and get her hair to her little bangs there. Her little bangs that are growing out and almost covering her eyes. All right. So now that we have our little flip in place, the hair comes even another little flip, kind of like this. And then we can get her shoulder in. All right, so let's back up and go to the handle. So the handle over here is at a nice angle. So we're going to come down to that line, and then it's going to be a little below this line and kind of back up to connect to there. And then there's the opening in the handle, which helps us see it as a handle. And then we're going to make a nice little triangle in this corner. And the handle is rigid and will help us to position the hand more. So the hand is going to happen at about this square. So I can do a little curve from how her hand is going to be on the handle and just extend this line on to that handheld location. So the rigidness of the handle will help us with the soft, squishy nature of her chubby little hands. So we've got that placed there. And then we can see that her dress comes kind of near to her hands. So we're going to come about there for our dress. And this, again, this is the white part because it stands out more from this picture. We can see the white part easier. So that's why I like to do that part first. Okay, and then it gets close because she has her chubby little knees, and then it drapes broader when it passes her knee. Okay, the dress is inside the handle and kind of comes out and then looks crisp, like it has been starched a little bit, so it doesn't flow out as much. So it kind of comes crisp down. And then her back lines up really beautifully with this line that we have here, which makes it easy for us. And then here's that dress going into the handle there. All right. Next, we can go over the top of her shoulder with her little apron. And so it goes over and goes about there. And I think we're ready to get a shoulder in here. All right, so let's take a look. So her elbow is kind of lined up here. And then we've got the shoulder. Now, babies do not have tons of muscle tone because their goal is to stay alive. So they just put on the weight to help them have what they need to grow, and they get their muscles a little later. So this is more staying alive kinds of things. So we're going to go to there, and then it's almost like they got another joint because their little fat rolls is so cute. Creates this kind of shape here for the wrist. And then we've got, oh, let's see, what can we put a little elbow shape there? Maybe something like that to show that that's the elbow. And then we'll have the arm about to there. All right, we have an arm. All right, we might as well struggle through our little hand here. So we've got a little fold of kind of some folded little chub there, and we got a little chub there, and then it goes across the shovel handle. And we want to think about fingers as boxes, kind of like boxy fingers coming across. There's one pudgy little finger. And then we've got to expand out so that it can actually hold the handle. There's another pudgy little finger. So we got a number 11 here kind of coming. There's another pudgy little finger. And then the pointer finger will be sticking out even further. So we're going to kind of bring him out, have the angle, the point way over here. The bump on the top of the hand. Pudgy, pudgy. Okay, there's a cute little pudgy finger. Okay, we're going to go with that. And then we have the dark blue around for where the underdress, it's got like a short little puffy sleeve over to there and about to there. And then we can kind of see the little waistline on the apron part of the dress. Okay, all right, we're making great strides. Now, if you're not sure about your hand and you're like, oh, I don't know, that's a little creepy looking, don't spend a ton of time erasing and redrawing at this point. Let's get the whole figure on our paper, and then we can come back and do some editing. It's easier to edit something that's been written already. Same with art. Draw the whole thing. We don't have enough information to know if our hand is right or not. We got to draw more parts. And then after we get more parts on, then we can edit and erase a little bit more. So don't get stuck here. So we're going to go back to our little shovel, And we know it comes out of her fingers and kind of, it's going to spread a little bit for the handle so that it's kind of coming out, and then it's going to be opening up for the shovel part. Okay, so kind of that sort of thing. And we've got one side of our bucket. Let's get the other side of our bucket, which comes down from this finger. We're going to go right to that line, that helping line that we drew. And we might as well get this shoe on down here on the leg, because we've already got this place for her little chunky legs. So let's go get this tiny little shoe on down here. We're like, ooh, how does this child have such small feet? So under the bucket, we're going to put the heel of the shoe in. And then it's going to go down to this line that we have here. And like, oh my, how tiny. And then, so there's the bottom of her little shoe. And you can really see how Mary Cassatt is into Impressionism. When we start to look at the shoe that she gave us, oh, Mary Cassatt, why did you do this to us? She's like, I never intended for you to make it into a realistic drawing. All right, so this is on us. This is on us. So here's the sock that is sticking out of the shoe. And then there's like the part that's kind of folded over on that sock. We'll kind of nestle it right there into that part there. And then we have this leg that's out. And it is not in pantyhose or tights or little socks. She's got little ankle socks. And then there goes her little chunky leg back in there. All right. Yep. Whew, shoe looks small. Okay. Then we have a little part of our dress left to put in right here. And here's the blue part. And that part will get colored dark because it's all in shadow. All right, and then let's try for the rest of this bucket. So we have a bucket that will come around. Well, you can use any pencil you want, by the way, on this. Just as long as you can erase it. Oh, I want it to come around. And, okay, got the... All right, I gotta think about where my hand is. Okay, so my pinky finger is gonna be about here. So I'm gonna have my bucket about there, and there's a handle on it. Okay. Yeah, okay, handle. Get a handle on it. So it's just kind of laying down, this handle. It's not sticking up. Okay. Handle in place. Gets a little confusing over here. We'll do some erasing later. All right. So now we're ready for another little chunky hand. All right. So the chunky hand, the thumb is on the outside of the bucket. So that's why we put the bucket first. And then the chunky hand is kind of like this. And then you want to think about the middle finger is coming down the most. And so we'll get that one in place first. So there is our middle finger, but it's bent, so kind of looks like a blobfish face. Yeah, you look up blobfish out of water and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, and then it's going to kind of angle up. So there's that, the ring finger, the chunky little pinky finger, and then we've got the thumb on the outside of the bucket, and so then we have the chunky little pointy finger coming in like that. All right. Yep, that's right. Okay, now we've got our arm that we put in place, and so let's get the inside of the elbow about there. And then we'll get our chunky little arm coming to her chubby little hand. Okay. All right. And you know what I'm doing. I am dawdling on that face. So let's go back down here and get the other leg. Okay. So we've got our bucket, and the top of the leg comes out the top of this bucket. And just like I did before, I want the sock to stick off of her leg a bit. So let's do that. Okay, and let's do this. Yeah, all right, that works. And then we can kind of see the side of the shoe. And then from my perspective, the shoe is going off the page, so you won't be able to see the rest of the shoe. And I'll just kind of fake a shoe there for those of you who are drawing larger. So that's all I can see there. All right. And then there's going to be a little part of dress sticking beside the bucket. So about there. And we have kind of the little empire waist here on this child's little apron portion of her dress. And remember, this is the elbow, so this part will be the dress, and here is her little arm coming down there. Okay. So yeah, so we have part of our waistband back there, so let's go ahead and maybe add a little curve here so we can see where that empire waist would be. All right, back to her head. Okay, so we know this is the forehead, and all right, so this is where it gets interesting, because see this little face that has not a lot of detail. So I'm thinking this is the forehead, and that it's going to kind of come down into this eye, and that the nose comes across and around. And then we have this cheek that comes across, and another cheek dip. Oh my goodness, yeah. So just spend some time looking at the face before we draw the face. All right, so I'm going to have this hair be all over her forehead, so her forehead kind of sticks out. And I'm going to add a brow bone. And I know that babies' little faces dip in so they can breathe while they're nursing. So it's an important thing. All babies would agree. And so we'll have our little nose. We're going to have her little eyelid, and this is the part of her eye that sticks out. And this child has quite the lashes. So I'm just going to designate lashes there. And she has quite the cheeks too. So let's just, we won't really be able to see her upper lip because she's looking down. Let's get a bottom lip, chin. Okay, let's think about, okay. So her eyes are there and there. Gonna designate for my lashes there. Her hair comes really close down. So her hair's growing out over that little forehead. And we have another kind of gap where the sun can be seen through her forehead. All right, so you can see this shape on this line. You can see where the face is at the top of this rectangle. And she's leaning forward. So that means that this red thing over here is an ear. And then we've got this very chubby cheek over there. And now I get to connect more hairy bits here. Okay, that's probably enough information for our drawing before we get our pen and ink out. And she's not really smiling. Let's see, we got to do something about this upper lip. We need an upper lip. So there we have an upper lip and this cheek. All right, good enough, good enough. So now the white part of the dress kind of sticks out and will come down to there. There's a little blue cap sleeve that sticks out to there. And then we can do the arm to the forearm connection there. All right, and I'm just going to put a few little marks while we have our helping line here to designate the little pleats on the apron part of her dress. There we go. I think I need to spend a little more time here in this area because this still looks strange, right? So let's try again. If at first we don't succeed, try again. So then we're gonna go like this over that cheek. And got some big, I bet she can pout good. Got a big bottom lip there. And then, all right, but she is concentrating on this sand. Oh yeah, the sand. Okay, that's just gonna have to do it because pretty tricky. All right, so let's come down here and get some sand on her shovel. Right, yeah. And make this shovel kind of go down in. It's very unclear what's happening in the circle of this bucket, so I can't tell if this is an edge, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it like an edge because, like I said, I can't tell what's happening. So that is the challenge of it, using Impressionism and going backwards to realism. Now what you'll want to do, you decide which is better for you. You can either erase the grid lines first and then trace with your micron pen, or you can trace with your micron pen and then erase the lines. I'm going to trace first because I trust myself not to accidentally trace a strong vertical or horizontal, but you know your own capacity, so do what works best for you. Now that the whole thing has been drawn and the drawing has been traced, it's time to get an eraser. Any eraser, I prefer the big one at this point, and just erase all of that grid work. When we get everything off except for that line drawing. Right, I'm all erased. All I need now is my pen. So we're just going to look at places that are all the way black. So when I mentioned earlier, this little space will be black, and so you're just going to color that area in all the way black. So we want to do this part first so that we don't have to worry about how do we cross hatch that later. Then we have kind of the leather portion of the shoe, which means there's a little glowy part. So I'm going to leave a glowy part near the toe, and then I'm going to color it all the way back here with the black. So here we go. Black, 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 black. Black, 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 black. All right, and then this part of the shoe. Now you'll notice it might look a little strange because you'll feel like I need to be coloring the whole thing in. But because of that blue color, this part will be left empty enough that we can put some blue paint on there later. So it'll just be from here to here that gets colored in solidly black. By the way, when you store your pen, store it with the lid on and in this direction. So maybe stick it in a cup, lid down. It has plenty of ink, but you want to make sure that the tip stays moist. This is a nice rigid tip that shouldn't crush on you while you're drawing, which is a great bonus. But you want to kind of keep it hydrated. So storing it like this will be helpful to you. So let's look at her little sleeve. And so there's like some interesting lines on the corner. And then when we go next to her arm, you can kind of see this dark area here from the puckers of this little sleeve. So you're going to put some of that in, a little bit there, a little bit more here, and I'm kind of curling it a little bit so that you can see that the arm is kind of coming out of this space. So the marks are all happening on the blouse. None of the marks are happening on the arm itself. But it kind of gives that feeling that the arm is coming out. So I'm gonna put some little marks there. And so just really, I'm focusing in on where are the dark places. So that's why I'm doing that. All right, so over here in the sleeve, we're gonna put a little bit more marks there and on the edge of this as it sticks out in front. Very good. Oh, and then her eyelashes are pretty dark, so let's get a bunch of little lines for her lashes. She has quite the lashes, so it's gonna start and stop. I'm gonna draw each one at a time till we get back there. Okay. All right, and put a little space kind of inside the ear there. And then I'm gonna start doing some of the darker colors of the hair. So there's dark color there, dark color there, back of the head has more dark color into where the little flip is. Now remember, I accentuated this flip, so I put more in so we could have more fun with our pen. So if you want to stay true to hers, then you will not have as much of a little flip there as I put in. More dark colors kind of coming here, and we'll just get some thin, barely using any pressure for those lines. And then I see darkness. I see darkness, my old friend. For the hairs kind of going that way, there's a little blonde one. It's bending over. Dark, 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 kind of going with a long zigzag that's close together to get that in place. Kind of her crown of her head here, going that way. And then this hair is going to go that direction. Some's coming forward. Okay, so right where it parts open on this little forehead, there's a little more shadow there. I'm gonna return. Okay, now we have some overlapping bits of hair here. There's a highlight happening in that area, so that's why I'm not doing any marks there. But I'm using just the side of this with very little pressure to get kind of just dragging that across. Almost no color there, just to kind of save that area. And I'm gonna make these kind of go in that direction. And then these are gonna go back there. Okay, so that was so much fun. And then, you know, like a child would, you're gonna have some hairs that aren't necessarily behaving themselves, kind of sticking up in the wind, some little flybys. Because if you're all perfectly contained, then that feels too staged. So you have a little bit of hairs kind of sticking out. There we go. So I'll get a close up on that. That's probably enough, and we'll do the rest with our color. Now, I don't want to do a lot of coloring on her face, because then so with a baby, if you do too many details on the face, then they start looking like Benjamin Button. They get a little older. So we'll probably stay away from doing too many marks on her face. Can kind of do a little line like that for this side of her brow bone kind of where it meets there, but we can't really see much else. So I think we're just gonna keep it like this and maybe add a little curl this way. There we go. You can have a little curl going that way. Okay. Now I'm gonna spend more time, however, on this little dress. So we've got our little pleats. I'm gonna put those in. So kind of where it will be darker. Create that muslin kind of look to the fabric. I'm gonna come around the side. Just follow the direction. You can kind of see that little shape. And we have a pleat here on the front. And I'm just going to use the line. I'm not going to cross hatch. I'm just going to make the line darker on the shadow side so that we don't lose the softness of her skin. So we just went darker there. I'm going to put some curves around this edge of the little white dress. And we're going to follow the curve of the bucket to get this color. So the shadowing of the inside-outside idea. So I followed the curve and then I'm going to cross hatch it. And looks like the light might be coming this way. It's a little hard to tell. It's a sunshiny beach. Okay, so we got light coming here, there. All right, this was a lot of reflected light from the sand too. So yeah, so now we'll just kind of add a little more detail to this shovel area so that it creates this space for the sand to be in it. There we go. And it's darker down here, so we will do that. All right, so then the side of the bucket, curve, 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 curve. Bottom of the bucket, we're just going to draw lines that curve, and then they will get smaller to create that curve. Okay, and we'll do little wrinkles on our socks. So these pens respond to pressure. If you press a little harder, more ink will come out. And if you just kind of graze the side, it'll almost look like it's dried out if you barely touch it, see? So you can really control based on pressure and angle. So upright, you can get more. Right. I'm going to put some little shadows under the leg, so on the sand, that's pressing down. So she's settled on that beach. Little shadow there. Oh, we missed some dark parts. Okay, so yes, we have lots of dark parts. I'm going to make my pen go up and down so I can get these really dark lines here in the blue dark area of this dress. All right, so now I can get some broader kind of marks for the folds on the fabric. So I'm going to use some more cross hatching, some more tic-tac-toe kind of things. Kind of create these triangles. folds in the apron part of this dress. So I've got that in place. Little divot there. And there's one that goes under the handle like that. Very fun. You know, I like this just in black and white, even without coloring it. So you guys have choices. Gonna get the edge on our little shovel handle now. Let's do little curves like this so it creates that rounded edge. So a bunch of little left parentheses on that bottom line. And then let's darken it next to the hand. And we're going to darken this side of the hand too. Then we've got kind of the ocean in the back, so let's use just this wide kind of mark area here to be like the edge back there. It's just to have her grounded. So you've got something to distinguish. Put a pile of something there. So just some scribbles to pretend like you're writing a prescription and you're a doctor. There you go. Right there. Yeah, and there's not much else going on. Let's see, maybe a little shade for where this goes up and down. Little scuffs on the bottom there. All right, I think I'll sign it now, and then it'll be under the paint. So here we go. And it is 2023. Ta-da! Now it'll be ready for paint. We will not save the face till last when we do the colors now. So here we are, we're ready for the colors. And I've got some water here. I have a paper towel so that I can knock any drops off. I've got my paints right here where we can see all the colors, and I've got my skin. So one of the things that we want to do when we're doing our skin is to get the skin all wet first. So we're not going to go on the arms and the face and everything all at once. So we're going to do parts of skin first and move around so that we never paint next to something that's wet. So first of all, we'll do the face. So we're going to get the whole face wet up into this hairline here, on this little ear. We're going to go in the crevice right here of its little forehead. And we're going to go on her eyelids and her eyelashes and on her nose and even on her lips and chin. So there's just water everywhere at this point. Very wet. It's okay if you get a teeny bit on the hair, not a problem. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to find this orangish brown color right here. We're going to get that wet, get a little bit of color on there, and we're just going to start, see when I touch it how it blossoms into all that water that we have. Yeah, so we're going to get that on there first. And then we're going to spread it around. Now, if it feels like too much, we'll show you what to do in a second. But right now, let's just spread it around, make sure that, see how it moves around? That means there was enough water on there first. Moves around in the whole space. Very nice. So you can see it's a little bit on the hair, not a problem. So that blends around so easily because of all the water. So now do not touch that with a tissue. We do not want to do that. So instead, we're going to use our paintbrush now to lift some off of where the highlight is there on its little forehead right there. So see how I lift that off, put it on the napkin. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put a little purple. All right, I'm going to test it over here. Knock some of the purple off so that we can get a little purple here on her little forehead for the shadow that we see. All right, so that looks too powerful, right? So I'll wash my brush, dry my brush, use my brush to kind of coax it down the side of the nose, around the corner, and right here down the cheek. All right, so you'll notice the purple doesn't look so offensive now. There, it looks pretty good. All right, then I'm going to pick up some of this blue right here. So I believe we just called this one blue. Yep, it's right next to the green, just a little blue. And we're going to put a little blue right back here on the back of this eyelid. We're going to have some of it back here. Whoops, starting to remove it. You got to get a little bit more on there. A little bit right there by its little ear and by the little bend on its little cheek that's popping out right there. All right, and some on the forehead. All right, so the gray, the blue and the orange made kind of a gray color there. So now I'm going to wash my brush and kind of spread that a little more. It still should be wet here. Okay, now I'm going to pick up some of this orangish red color down here. Get some of that, test it out. Oh, that's pretty bright. Get it a little bit wetter. Touch it here first. And I'm going to go on these cheeks with that orangish red color. There and there. All right, that looks like a lot. All right, so now I'm going to put some on this little lip. Little lip. And I'm going to take some of it off. So I'm going to dry my brush, wet my brush, dry my brush, and then kind of scoop some of it off. See, it looked like a lot, but it's going to be okay. Just stick it right over there and, you know, lift that up and stick it over there. All right. Now I'm going to go in this pink color right here. Get a little pink. Come back here and put some pink on the back of this cheek. And some pink like here and here. All right, then I'm going to wash my brush, dry my brush, and pick some of that off. See, so that it's gradually in. So there, we're going to go right up his her little forehead, go on the little cheek there. All right, this is looking really good. Little did you know when you did fruit that you would be practicing for this. All right, so let's get some of this actual lipstick red color here. And let's put a little bit on that lip. And then let's wash our brush, dry our brush. Pick it off the upper lip. That red looks pretty pink, so let's go back to our orange red and get some of that for right there on the right side of the lip. All right, that looks pretty good. So that's probably as brave as you need to be if you're a beginner. But if you're more brave, you can try a little more. I'm gonna go to this light blue color and kind of go up and around, up. So I have those little lines like that. I'm gonna wash my brush, dry my brush, and spread those out in those places so that it leaves the eyelid light. All right, so that's just if you're especially brave. Okay, and then I think, see, like she's getting some sun on her ear over here, so it's a little bit more orange red. So I'll put some more sun over there on that ear. All right, so now we're gonna let that dry. So you notice that there's no graininess because my paintbrush picked up all the grainy pigment when there was too much and kind of moved it around. And so it will be grainy when you first put it on from the tooth of the paper and from the way the color behaves. But it will have this kind of tone as it dries. And that's probably good enough for us. So we'll keep it right there just like that. Now the face is drying and we will work on this arm right here. So I'm going to get the arm wet first. So wash my brush. Wet arm. Just get it nice and wet only in the arm. If you get outside of the arm with your water, then the color will go there as well. So you want to stay in our arm and hand. And I'm putting quite a lot of water on there. So there's a puddle here. See me reloading my brush several times. Okay, now I'm gonna get this orangey brown color again and kind of drop it. Boop, 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 boop. This is my base tone. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. All right, and then I can wash my brush and dry my brush and spread it around on her little arm. And you can see I use so much water that it's really faint, so I might have to add more in a second because her arms are out in the sun. So there's more color there. Okay, so let's take some more of that color and let's boop it over here. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, boop. And some right here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, and I'm gonna wash and dry. Spread that out. And spread that out. Okay, now this child has a lot of pink to her tones, as toddlers often do. So let's get that lavender color again, because our lavender has quite a pink tone to it. And let's go down this shadow side of the arm. So we're gonna go right down the shadow side over here. And let's put a little purple shadow on her little hand here by this pinky finger. And let's do a little shadow here in the little divot of her arm. Okay. And I washed my brush and dried my brush and spread that shadow out a little so it doesn't have any hard edges around it. Okay, then we noticed when we did our red that it had quite a pink tinge to it. So let's put a little red down here on the end of the fingers. And let's put a little red back there and there. And then we'll clean off our brush. And we'll spread those around. Quite pink, that color, huh? Quite pink. All right, and now we will use the orange red to give the warmth that we need. So we'll warm it up here and here. Well, I think I need a little bit more of the skin, the orangey brown, so we'll stick that there. Okay, and dry and spread. All right, now let's look for where there might be highlights. So now my brush is clean and dry, and I will scoop up a highlight there and put it on the napkin. I will scoop up a highlight there and put it on the napkin. And I will scoop up highlights on the front of these fingers and put it on the napkin. Out and from this little roll of fat right there, a little. highlight there. Okay, it's a mighty nice arm, and we're gonna let that dry. There's still a sheen there. We're gonna move over to this arm now. So let's get this arm wet. I'm gonna use my orange brown to drop some pigment in there so we get some color for that little arm. And we're gonna wash our brush and dry our brush and spread it around in that space. Remember, do not use a tissue. We want to keep that area wet. Great, very good. Now we'll take some, this one has like a little green to it, so we're going to get some of this light green. I'll put a little green right there. All right, and I can clean that off. Get some of that red color for the pink part. Remember, red and green makes brown. Get the pink part over there. And there's a little purple on the top of the hand here. And a little purple over here on this part. All right, so it looks like she's doing the color run. So now I'm going to take my brush and kind of pick up stuff, smear it around, blend it around a little, and put it on the napkin. There we go. All right, I think I need a little vermilion. Oh, we call this orangish red. Instead of vermilion, to get a little orange. Ooh, wow, that's a lot of vermilion. Okay, well, we will do it. And then clean it off. Don't be scared, I guess, when that happens, because you can always just lift it off and put it over there. Whee. All right. Now I think I need a little bit more of the orangish brown. And you can see I get out of the lines a little bit, but that doesn't really concern me. It's close enough counts. So if it gets out of the lines a little, that was close enough. Okay, good. Nice skin. All right, and it should look pretty bold like that because nothing else is painted on our picture yet. So you want to make sure it's not too faint. Don't be chicken. Be brave. All right, now we got the legs. So we're going to clean our brush. Got our water. We're going to paint it with water here. Okay, then we're going to take the orangish brown color. I'll drop that in on that water. I'll wash my brush. Gonna spread that around on that little leg and just kind of use my brush to massage it into the paper there. Mix that up. All right, then I can put some of it on my paper towel. And it looks like I'm gonna need a little of the purple on the top of this leg up here. I see purple. Put some purple back down in there. Yep. And I'm gonna get a little vermilion because we know it makes it for a nice bright skin tone for her. All right, and so now I'm just going to kind of calm it down by painting over it and laying some on the napkin. Good. And then the highlight would happen kind of like right here. So I'm going to use a little water. And then lift that and put it on the napkin. See, that's how I water, lift it, put it on the napkin. All right, so now we got the light shining on that side. All right, then we just have a little skin left right over here. There's some sneaky skin from the legs. So we're gonna put some water here and there. Get some brown, drop it in, put some on my napkin. A little more brown. Okay, get a little bit of the vermilion so it's bright over there. Oh, orangish red. Probably should have just named it vermilion, but orangish red. It's a good description of what color it is. Dry it and blend it, and we'll put a little purple on the bottom there. All right, so we now have the skin done, and we can't do any painting where the skin is wet. So let's go up here and get a little ocean. Let's take this dark blue and let's kind of wiggle on the edge of this that we have right there, because that is going to be where the beach stops and the ocean starts. All right, then let's take a little bit of purple and kind of go under it so it can kind of mix a little. And let's take a little bit of this cherry red and play in that. It's kind of fun. And then we're going to need our orangish red to touch it and blend down kind of like right there. And we'll do something similar there. Okay. And I kind of see, well, let's use this chocolate brown to tone it down slightly. So a little chocolate brown right there and there. And then we'll go in our cherry red and go where the chocolate is, so it kind of browns it a little. All right, pretty fun, pretty fun. Okay, next I'm going to get this part wet. I know that I'm next to that part I just painted. It's going to be fine with me if it gets in there. So you see we've got some blossoming as the water hits it. It kind of brings it over, so that's okay. That's a good thing. And then we're going to go in this light blue right here and do some side to side and let it blossom out in that water. So that can be our ocean. So there's the light blue there. Then we can pick up a little bit more of this dark blue. We'll have some of that blossoming. And I guess I have to do it. I know the purple is a little on the pink side, but we can do a blossom of that. All right, we're going to let that be up there. And we can check and see. All right, so that's the wettest area. You don't overdo it because you want to keep those like white lines up in there. But it's tricky because it's like, oh, I think I'd kind of like to see a little green. So I'm gonna go back with a little green, just dark green color, so it gets that aquamarine look there. I'm not sad that I did that. All right, now I will leave it alone. Okay, so I can take a break while stuff dries because it looks like I've got a lot of wet. Okay, I can do the bottom of the shoe. There we go. So we're going to do this yellow ochre color. This time I don't have to get it wet first. The yellow ochre color will be what gets it wet. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to pick up some of this chocolatey color and play in the yellow ochre. And that would be over there too. And then I'm going to put some chocolate on this sock for now. And right here as well. I'm going to clean my brush and kind of take a little bit of that off. It's a little too thick. Don't want it to look at all sticky. All right, I can't go up on the cuff. All right, well, I can put some yellow ochre in my sand. It's tricky to find a place that isn't touching something wet. So there's my sand. And some chocolate, a little bit chocolate in there with the sand too. Okay. All right, this is a good time to go get a drink of water or put laundry in the dryer, so, or wash machine or vice versa, because we all know Mount Laundry More is always crying out for you to do more. Because I need things to dry before I can paint other things. Okay, I've paused a bit. There's no more sheen on things. I like the way that my shoe dried and my ocean dried. Looks very cool. And so I'm perfectly prepared to paint myself into a corner again. So let's work on our background tone. Got our sandy, sandy beach. So we're gonna use a lot of water and get it wet. And you pretty much have to do the whole thing, the whole background at once in order for it to make sense. So use a fair amount of water. Okay, the trick is sometimes you want it to dry and sometimes you don't. So I'm in the situation where I don't want it to dry that fast until I get stuff in. I can't play up there yet because when I touch it, it will blossom. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this water everywhere. Now I can touch this and let it blossom a little bit in. See that? You're like, but we let that dry. Well, that's because we need to dry on the ocean side of things. But all right, so now we're gonna use our lemon yellow first. And we're gonna drop that into all these places and spread that around. At the top, so got our lemon yellow at the top. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Very good lemony yellow. Okay. And then we're going to move down to our regular yellow, and that's going to go the next level. Regular yellow. Okay, and then we're going to go into our yellow ochre, and that's going to be down at the bottom. So there, now we have our yellow ochre right down there. Okay. All right, then I'm going to use my orangish brown to get some play with it. This is the color we used on the skin, but because we have yellow as a base, it's a little different. And then we're going to use some of the orangish red also down here. And now let's see. We're going to use this blue right here, the ultramarine blue. Kind of play around and gray up our lemony yellow. So see how that grayed? The reason that works is ultramarine blue has more of a violet tinge to it, so it makes things gray instead of really green. So we don't want it to turn green, so that's why we have to use this one. If we use this one, it would have turned more green, so it's a better choice. We're gonna go around things, Get a little blue, ultramarine blue. This area, the shadow, you can see it turning gray. And ultramarine kind of there. And a little ultramarine kind of in that area too. All right, so the watercolor is playing around. Now I can just kind of wash my brush, dry my brush, and lift off any puddles. So I'm gonna lift up this puddle and stick it over here. Lift up that puddle and put it over there. My paper is starting to curl a bit because it's wet, and that's okay. Just gonna lift off those puddles, put over there, because I'm gonna have to pause again and let all this sandy beach dry before I move on to the next step. Puddle lifting, puddle lifting. Instead of puddle jumping, it's puddle lifting. Just put it on that paper towel. All right, and now I can take another break and let that dry again. Twiddle our thumbs while we're taking hair. There's a lot of colors in this hair. All right, so first off, let's just get the hair all wet, just like we've been doing. This helps us not get too much color and helps all the colors stay in the space. So carefully getting the bangs wet and the hair wet. Nice, okay. Now we're gonna start with yellow ochre. So this is the same color we put on the bottom of the shoe, the same color we put in the sand, and we're gonna put this all over the hair to start with. So it's kind of a gold color. Gonna get that everywhere. Yes, just like that. Now this is where the light is going to hit her hair, so we can get more of that off in that space. Okay, and now I'm going to put some more ochre kind of in the parts that are not the light parts. So we're going to go more here and more back at there. Okay, you can see it's still quite wet. That's what we want. Wash my brush, dry my brush, and I'm gonna get some of the orangey brown color like we used on the skin. And that's gonna go down in this area right here. And there's gonna be some of it in the middle of her head right there. And there's gonna be a little glow of it back there and there. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I want to get a little of the chocolatey color, and I'm going to go back there, kind of here in the front area. Okay, and then I'm going to go back here, this back area here, and bring it down around there. All right, and a little bit on this front bangs right there and over here. Okay, next, it looks like I need some more of this maybe vermilion color to get it really bright back here in this crown area like that. Yep, and even right here. And down here. Okay, then I'm going to take some of this very dark blue color and go in there. Now, are you surprised that the dark blue hung out with the orange and made kind of like that gray blue color? Pretty neat, huh? Okay, so the dark blue is playing nicely with that orangey red. See, we'll get a little bit there, kind of grayed a bit. And go there, and there. Dark, 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 dark. All right, and I'm gonna clean off my brush. Then I'm gonna get a little more of the yellow ochre color and go back here again. And I'm gonna get a little more of the orangish brown and go back here again. Orangish brown, orangish brown. Orangish brown, orangish brown. All right, so you can kind of see the sheen and it kind of stands out probably more than you hoped. So we'll now take our brush and remove, we'll spread and remove again. So spread and remove, spread and remove. So we were laying it over there. Get a little highlight there. So we melted the colors together a little bit. We still want to keep those highlighty edges. So that looks like some pretty good hair. So we got this yellow ochre. Will be great on the shovel handle. I'm not getting it wet because I can't even see where the shovel handle is wet or not. So I'm just going to do this. That way I can do my best to stay in the lines a little bit better. So yellow ochre over. And the yellow ochre is wet though, so make sure that you're using enough water with the yellow ochre because we are going to drop some color into it. Okay, all the way down, and now we'll get some orange brown to play in that. Very nice. About to there. And then I'm going to lift off some of this because I kind of went too far with my yellow ochre, because I have a feeling that this is an actual shovel and not just a kid's plastic shovel because of the time period. So I'm going to put some blue on it. Well, maybe not that blue. Let's do this blue. Okay, kind of make it look more like aluminum. This dark blue kind of on these socks like this first. And then let's take some of the orange red and make this kind of earthy purple tone. Get an earthy purple instead of a purple purple. Okay, more dark blue. And we're gonna go over the chocolate part of the sock that we left last time. And maybe I'll pick some of the pink red up, stick him on there now, like that. There we go, that was fun. So we're gonna get the dark blue. We're gonna go on these little sleeves. I'm gonna clean my brush. I'm gonna lift some of it off so I can see my pen and ink through there. Okay, it's lifted off. And now I'm going to play with some of this green color. So this is the regular green. Whoops, wrong color. Regular green. So we can make it a little more on the teal side. See, there's a nice teal color now. The blue and the green can have that teal look to it. Very nice. You can play with the white. It's in our set. I almost never get to play in white, so let's do it. So you'll notice when you paint over it, it actually does the opposite of making it bright, that it kind of dims it a little bit, that some of the other colors hanging out. So instead of coloring it with water, we're coloring it with water and white. Just like that. And we have to be cautious around these sleeves because they are still wet. And normally I would say take a break, but we don't have to because if we get blue in here, it's not a problem because there's a lot of blue in there. So, see, not urgent when that happens. Okay, so let's use the ultramarine blue, this one right here, and start laying in a little bit where these little cross hatches are, some little shadows. Doo, doo, doo. Okay, very nice. And I even think I'm going to pick up a little bit of this yellow. Oh, that was too powerful. All right, try again. Try again. All right. Have a little sunshine. Now clean that off. Lift some of that off. So it's just a faint amount. So we use the ultramarine blue so that when we put the yellow on, it didn't turn too green. All right, that's pretty fun. I'm going to lift off some of this green because it's still puddling. Nice. Okay. All right, the bucket. The bucket is going to have, let's put a little lemon yellow on here. Lemon, lemon, lemon. Lemon, 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 lemon. And then let's get some of the vermilion. Vermilion, vermilion, vermilion. And then let's use the ultramarine blue to gray that up. So we have our little gray bucket. And that works because they were complementary colors. Orange and blue are complementary colors, so that's how we got that. Okie dokie artichokes. Here we go with the blue fun. So when you look at Mary Cassatt, she has blue everywhere. It's like she knows me. The only thing is we won't be using the dark blue. We're going to be using this ultramarine blue. So I'm going to get some water on here. I'm going to stir it. I'm going to test it. Yep. And I'm going to go from my tippy toes of my paintbrush. And we're going to go putting blue all kinds of places. Yep, I'm going to keep retouching and blue, 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 blue on the shoe. As you can see, I put quite a lot of blue on, and I'm very happy with my version of Mary Cassatt. So how fun is that? When you're all the way done, if you notice if she needs a little bit more color to her lips, when everything is dry, you can come and put a little bit more. And then I'm going to just keep it light on the left there. There we go. All right, The Day at the Beach by Alayne Cassatt. I hope you have lots of fun with this. Be brave. Just don't worry. Don't be afraid to wreck it. Just keep going. You can always try over again. So I think there's a lot to learn in this picture about layering of colors. And look, I'm even gonna, as my last thing, get a little bit more on those cheeks because she's got very summery, sunshiny cheeks. Yeah. There, that was a nice final touch. All right, see you soon.